On today's show, the Denver Nuggets go up big, then they fall, then they come back, and Jamal Murray gets clutch on the Sacramento Kings. Talk about how they got to win and some more comebacks and a great night in the NBA.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
And welcome. You're locked on to the NBA. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of Locked On the Mavericks podcast, part of the podcast network, your team every day. Thanks for being an everyday or making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen every day. We cover every game every day. That's our thing, 7 days a week. Most of the other time we're lying to you when we say your team every day because we do only 5 days a week. But game night is 7 days a week. That's right. Today's episode is brought to you by the College Football Playoff. It's here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. College Football Playoff presented by Allstate begins with 4 first-round games December 20th and December 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. Just go back to HBO Max. I don't understand.
I swear.
Joining me, as always, from the great Locked On Bucks podcast. What did you see in the NBA tonight, Camille Davis?
A night of comebacks. So many all over the place. And some games where I didn't expect a comeback to be had, there was a comeback had. So it was some exciting games tonight.
Definitely. I was nervous. They had me in the first half of tonight. And then we got some really good ones. So we'll get into Miami's comeback and then overtime and then fail against the Detroit Pistons. What did we see from the Pistons? We'll talk about the Raptors had a comeback against the Bulls and they failed. We'll talk about the Bulls side of it. We'll get into the rest of the games as well. We'll play Count It Up, where we count up the most interesting, fun things in the NBA from the Philly win, the Cavs win. We'll talk about we'll even talk about the Utah Jazz, the lowly Utah Jazz.
Utah Jazz.
We'll talk about that and more. But let's start here, Camille. We get the Sacramento Kings versus the Denver Nuggets, a great game. Overall, it started with the Denver Nuggets coming out swinging 18-6 to start, then 24-6. Then it was 39-19 in the first quarter. They're up 20, and then at one point they were up by 23 in this game. And then the Kings make this comeback and end up being up by 10 late in this game. They were up by 10 with 4 minutes left. Denver comes back, gets the win off of Jamal Murray, 15 points in the fourth quarter. Let's start with the Nuggets. How did the Nuggets compose themselves and get a win after going up 23, then falling down 10 and with 4 minutes left, and then coming back to get us a win?
It felt like a moment where they realized this is just the way the game is going to be called. So we have to figure something out. And once they kind of got into that bag, you also just saw the Stars start making shots. I mean, when you look at the last, minute and a half of that game, when you had the lead changing back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. On the Nugget side of things, it was a lot of Jamal Murray. It was a lot of Nikola Jokic over and over and over again. I mean, even on the last Jamal Murray bucket that put them up for good, the two of them touched the ball just consistently throughout that possession, back and forth until they found the second one. Until they found it. That's what it was. They leaned on their stars in Denver.
Jamal Murray in this game is in this season has been kind of confounding. Like he has not been very good. I've seen all the Nuggets fans and I've seen Locked On Nuggets guys be frustrated in his play and say, hey, the Nuggets aren't going to go anywhere in the playoffs unless he steps up and gets better. But in this one was kind of the same. He was not playing well at all through the first 3 quarters. And then all of a sudden, the fourth quarter, sometimes you just have it. And sometimes you just have that clutch gene. And sometimes you just step up. 15 points in the fourth quarter. He played 11 minutes. He was a plus 14 in that quarter and just hit clutch bucket after clutch bucket over and over again. It was massive for Jamal Murray. What did you see from him in that fourth quarter?
That he didn't get scared of the moment. He was not shooting the ball well. Before the fourth quarter, he had 13 points heading into that final frame, continued to shoot. And to all the Nuggets fans, people covering the team who have just been like, he's not been good enough. I mean, you pull the numbers and he just hasn't looked like himself. And Jamal Murray being that second star is vital to the Nuggets' success. Like he's averaging some of the worst splits of his career right now. Like right under 18 points a game, shooting like 33% from 3, just hasn't looked like himself. So to see him come alive in the fourth quarter, I know for Denver Nuggets fans, it has to be a hope of something more to come and not just a flash for a night. If this can be consistent Jamal Murray again, they're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, they needed that Jamal Murray because Jokic just was not. I mean, Sabonis plays Jokic really well. They were letting a lot of physicality in this game. We'll touch on that here in a second. But Jokic, maybe the worst triple-double I've seen this season, which is just a classic Jokic thing. 20 points, 14 boards, 13 assists. Didn't play well. Like,
right. That's what happens when you're one of the best in the world. Even your worst is like some guy's best. Like, that's how crazy Nikola Jokic is right now.
Very good. But they needed that Jamal Murray down the stretch. We talked about the physicality and the officiating. Your thoughts on what role officiating had in this game? Because I got the thoughts from both Locked On Nuggets and Locked On Kings. I'll tell you after I hear your
I can't wait to hear how they viewed it. Because for me, as an impartial bystander, there's somebody watching the game. I enjoyed the physicality, and I thought the tone was actually set in that first quarter when the Nuggets went on their run. They were letting Aaron Gordon body up everybody.
Yeah.
In this way, does not matter. Get them off of me. I'm going up for the bucket. And once that tone of physicality was set, as the game continued, the refs just let them play. There were missed fouls, if you want to call it that way, on both sides of the ball. But as long as the ref is calling it even, like, I don't generally have a problem with it. I enjoyed the physicality that the refs allowed tonight in that game.
It didn't feel like there was as many stoppages in this type of game because they were letting them play. I mean, that the Kings shot 20 free throws, the Nuggets shot 24 free throws. You had 18 fouls for the Nuggets, and you had 23 fouls for the Kings. So it's fairly even there across the board. The response I got though from the Locked On Nuggets, I just followed Swipa's Twitter timeline the whole night where he was just saying it was an utter embarrassment that this officiating was happening. There was contact on every play and that Jokic doesn't get any calls. Then I was like, all right, I need a second opinion. So I texted Ryan Blackburn and I said, I need another Denver opinion. What do you think about the officiating? He said, it's been bad. Guys are getting taken out mid-air. And I think I agree with him on that there was moments where you're like, man, it feels like maybe both teams are getting away with stuff, but the Kings are getting away with more than the Nuggets are because they were like hitting guys as they're going up. And then I texted Matt George of Locked On Kings. I said, what did you think about the officiating? And he was in the building. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's hard to like really have an opinion on officiating when you're not watching on TV. He said, I don't feel like it took away from the game, at least from the arena. So I guess Sacramento Kings fans didn't feel like it was taken away.
Probably because of the pacing of the game as well, like you mentioned. Like when you don't have a lot of fouls being called and you're just seeing guys being physical, like you tend to lean into that. And for the Kings, they were down. So, of course, they were probably into the game being more physical while they climbed back into it. And
that's kind of like a lesson to everybody is that it's so fast in the moment. If you don't have those replays immediately, it's hard to know what's a foul and what's not. You have a lot of appreciation for a ref if you sit really close to an NBA game and like watch these guys in person because it's just so fast. But the story in this one is just the Nuggets. They just turn it on. They can be inevitable. They haven't been great in the clutch this season. They were 7-6 coming into this game in clutch games. But those two guys, when they get going and compile that with the Kings defense, it was awful at the beginning. It was okay the rest of the game. And then just the last couple of minutes, they couldn't get anything going on offense. And then their defense was giving up a bunch to the two-man game of Jokic and Murray. It seems inevitable.
It is. And I was kind of curious as how the Kings were going to come back in this game because neither team takes a lot of threes. Like Denver takes the fewest amount of threes in the league while the Kings take the eighth fewest. So I was watching the flow of the game like, okay, where is the math problem going to come into play for this game? But it didn't for the Nuggets down the stretch, even though the Kings took like 7 more threes in them, but they only made 2 more. So they were able to keep that math a bit close for them.
And it came down to, we'll talk about the Kings side of it. It came down to the final play where they were getting clutch buckets too. They got some clutch buckets from Fox. They got a DeRozan drive from the corner. He drove past Jokic backdoor off of the corner. And then the final play, Fox and Sabonis running the two-man game. Sabonis gets the ball off of the roll. He's driving down the lane, kicks it over to DeRozan, who was on the left wing, and he fumbles the pass. It was just, that was heartbreaking where you just see all that they've done. And then you get DeMar DeRozan, the vet that's supposed to come in and like stabilize and give them clutch. Wasn't he the clutch player of the year? Like, and then for him to fumble in that moment was kind of shocking to see.
It was disappointing. Like you see all the effort that they put in to come back in this game. You felt it in the building, the energy that was in there for their fans. They wanted that win so bad. To see him fumble and then oddly enough, still get somewhat of a good shot because he is such a mid-range like maestro. The shot he took, I was like, he could make that. Didn't make it in that situation. Yeah. I know the disappointment was palpable in that arena.
So tough. But a win for the Denver Nuggets. Tough clutch loss for the Sacramento Kings. Their season has not gone super well. Go listen to Locked On Kings, Locked On Nuggets for more on those games coming up. Despite the loss, Jimmy Butler had a great game, but the Pistons get the last laugh. How did they get the win? We'll hear from Kuka Hill, Locked On Pistons, and more coming up.
Count it up.
Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds, things that you can use to get in on the action, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Get into the NFL action, America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel. They have all kinds of stuff. Let's go NFL. Let's go. I'm not going to say anything about Camille's Packers. I'm just going to leave that alone. I'm going to leave that alone for right now. The Dallas Cowboys, 3.5-point underdog at home against the Buccaneers. Oh, how the mighty have fallen, the Dallas Cowboys. All kinds of stuff. They have parlay builders. They have weekly specials that are kind of fun. Like they have any offensive lineman to score a receiving touchdown plus 850. That's kind of fun if you're just like watching Red Zone or something like that. So check out FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get put down $5 and you can win $150 in bonus bets if that wins. FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Game Night. We've got a daily newsletter for every single team. Go to LockedOnDaily.com to get the newsletter. There's one for the Mavs. There's one for the Bucks. There's one for literally name a team. Name an NBA team. We've got a newsletter for that. So go check that out. And then all the other great Locked On NBA shows. We've got one for every single team with great hosts across everywhere, including one of my favorites. The first guy I ever got to bring on to Locked on the Pistons getting a win tonight that was just insane.
I don't know what I just watched. That was easily probably the most crazy game I've watched all year, and maybe the craziest game I've watched over the last few years. Host of Locked On Pistons podcast, Kuka Hill here. The Pistons pull out a win that they should have had, but then also maybe shouldn't have had. They were dominating the entire game. First 3.5 quarters, had a 19-point lead, had a large lead late in the fourth quarter, and then lost it, but then got it back. And then Tyler Hero forced overtime after they refused to foul, up 3 at the end of the game, and then went down by 7 in overtime. And then Tim Hardaway Jr. went on a flurry to get them back to lead, and then lost the lead again in overtime. And then Cade hit a game-winning layup, go-ahead game-winning layup. And then they got 2 stops on the Heat at the end of the game to get a win. A win that should have been easy for the Pistons. Tremendous game from Cade. Great game from Ausar Thompson. Overall, great game from the Pistons that they almost fumbled and maybe should have lost, but definitely should have won. I don't know.
Shout out to Cool, Locked On Pistons. Yeah, it did feel like that for the Pistons, where they're up by 16 with 5:29 left. Then Miami goes on a 10-0 run after that to go only down by 6. Detroit takes their last timeout with 2:24 left, and you go, oh my gosh, you've got to get this at the end here. And then you get a couple of hero threes. You get the Pistons right after a timeout, barely got a shot off. Got a shot off on the shot clock, and then you got just some crazy other plays after that. And Hero hits a 3, almost got fouled. Detroit didn't foul up 3. Is that the first thing that you think of, is why Detroit didn't foul up 3 at the end of regulation?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too. Like, just go the safe route here, foul while you're up 3, then live with that thereafter. Like, at the worst, you up by 1, but you're still up by 1 at that point, so you deal with it from there. What were you thinking at that situation?
Thinking like, okay, they don't have any timeouts. I don't know. Maybe they foul and they get fouled again. Maybe they're trying to play the math game in their head, and they're going, eventually we're gonna have to let this play out. But yeah, there was only 11 seconds left. I don't know why they did not foul. That didn't make any sense to me. A young team maybe making a choice there. Then you go into overtime. The Pistons don't score for the first 3 minutes of overtime. Their offense just completely went in the tank the last 4 or 5 minutes. I don't think they had a field goal They didn't have a field goal the last 5:30 of regulation, and then into 3 minutes into the overtime as well. Didn't have a field goal until
someone you know well,
former Dallas Mavericks son, Tim Hardaway Jr. 3 threes in a row in overtime, just a flurry, including the most insane heat check 3 in overtime I think I've ever seen. He's in transition. He's on the left wing, and he's running full speed, stops,
pull up,
jumps, pulls up.
Bad form.
terrible. He pulls up and he's moving forward as he jumps up because his momentum is still carrying him and he's running, makes the three. It was one of the most insane yes threes I've seen from Tim Hardaway Jr. I've seen a lot of his games, but that flurry was massive. A heat check from THJ, and sometimes you get that from these guys like Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway and even Tobias Harris, who didn't play in this game, but you bring on those guys to eventually have a flurry like that where they hit a bunch of threes and your offense looks unstoppable.
I mean, that's part of how they got up. Like Malik Beasley had 7 threes in this game, and they were just raining threes down on Miami early. They won that by +8 from the 3-point line tonight. So like they were getting the shots up. It's just that drought they had that allowed the Heat to come back. And during that time, you saw how they put so much more defensive attention on Cade. Like, this is the engine. Let's cut this off. There is no Jay Ivey here tonight, so they're short on ball handlers and shot creators. Let's try to lock Cade up. And they got tight for the Pistons at that point once they did put that attention on him. But Cade has still found a way, got his teammates involved. And as you mentioned, THJ just came up big in overtime with, I just couldn't believe the shot making. And then seeing Tim Hardaway, his dad in the audience, just looking proud, like, yeah, like that's what I'm talking about. I'm like, all right.
Luka should have given them the ball more. You see, Luka
right.
Right.
You see what he can do?
How many podcasts are we seeing? Automatic NBA on Twitter posted that the Pistons trailed by 8 with just 2 minutes left in overtime before Tim Hardaway Jr. scored 9 straight points in less than a minute to take the lead. He's just the 11th player this century to score 9 or more points in a 1 minute span in overtime. Reggie Miller would be proud.
Man, he would. And I'm proud of these Pistons too, because this is the game they would have lost last year. This is not a game that would have lost every game, lead, and it would have just been it. But they found a way this year. Like, look at the growth from the Pistons.
Speaking of, Cade Cunningham, 20 points, 11 boards, 18 assists. But Detroit's offense fell off. We talked about how basically for 8 minutes they didn't score from the end of regulation through overtime. And what responsibility does he have in that?
I mean, he could try to force it. He could, but he's that type of guy who wants to try to play ball the right way, let the game come to him. And again, because they were putting so much attention on him, the offense stalled. He couldn't get anything going. And I think with how this roster is constructed, when you don't have Ivy out there as well, like it does make things a lot tighter because now you're depending on, Asar Thompson to get some buckets. You're looking at Tim Hardaway Jr., who did in overtime, but it wasn't looking great for him prior to that overtime period. Malik Beasley was hot for a bit. He was trying to find him. You had Isaiah Stewart leave during this game with the knee injury. So like just the pieces that he had around him, not necessarily the biggest shot creator. So Cade, I'm gonna keep hooping and trusting that it's going to fall eventually. I'm gonna keep making the right pass. Hopefully the shots fall, and they didn't until overtime.
Yeah, I just wonder if there's that next level scoring for him to be that number one. If we think he's a number one like star player on a team, then is that next level scoring there for him? Because you see him in a game like this, and yes, you're playing against Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and a Eric Spoelstra coached team. It's hard for teams to get stuff going late against them, although they haven't been super great this season. But you can just tell that the Heat were way better coached defensively against the Pistons offense late in this one, so they couldn't get a lot going. Jimmy Butler on the Heat side of it, 35 points, 19 boards, 10 assists. A great despite the loss game, which has become a thing now in the NBA. Despite the loss, this guy had this stat line. That's great.
Jimmy Butler's still trying to get paid.
That's right, by somebody. The Pistons announcers thought it was by OKC, which I haven't seen a rumor. I don't know where they came up with that, but they were like the orange hair. I'm like, that's for the Suns. That stat line, 35 points, 19 rebounds, 10 assists, has only happened 27 times in NBA history.
Man.
Players' teams were 22-5 with that stat line before tonight.
Well, listen, Jimmy, you're in some good company there because it doesn't happen often. But
a lot of Wilt Chamberlain.
Right. Like, yeah, when you weld on anything, you feel good about it. Well, maybe not anything.
Yeah, so we'll keep monitoring. Check out Locked On Heat for where Jimmy's going to go next, I guess. We're going next to Toronto. We're going to the 6, and we're going to check out the Raptors versus the Bulls. The Raptors, close to come back. It ended a 1-point game because of a heave from Sheed at the end of the game. But let's hear from our guy Hayes from Locked On Bulls about the win.
What's going on? It's Hayes, host of Locked On Bulls, and the Chicago Bulls get a 122-121 win today over the Toronto Raptors on the road. And this is I won't call it a big win, but this was a good win for the Chicago Bulls, considering how the Toronto Raptors kept coming back. And the Bulls kept holding them off. And that's been something that the Bulls have really struggled with. The Bulls' issues of still dealing with teams that just refuse to go away are still there. The Bulls' lack of a true half-court offense continues to hurt and limit that team. But they keep finding ways to win against these teams that are below them, and that's what the Bulls really need to keep doing. Big contributions, over 40 points total off the bench today. The Bulls needed those contributions from Lonzo Ball, Jalen Smith, Julian Phillips, THT with a really big bench night with 15 points. And despite a cold shooting night from Kobe White and Vooch just being the consistent player that Vooch has been all season, the Chicago Bulls keep finding ways to win. That's really important for a team that has just been struggling this season and has one of the league's worst defenses. But tonight the Bulls pull out the win. They get ready to face Boston on Thursday, and we'll see what the Bulls got.
The Bulls in this one, they were up by 16 with 10:55 left in this game, and then it was only a 1-point game with 2:28 left. The Raptors put on a comeback, but how did the Bulls pull out this win and get a stop?
Just found a way to make some shots. I think Hayes summed it up really well, like the consistency that they were able to continue to have with Vooch out there. It was a poor shooting night from Kobe White, but they were able to generate enough points elsewhere. Like they had 7, 8 guys in double figures tonight. Seven different guys in double figures. So like they were able to spread that out. When you have Jalen Smith coming off your bench now, able to knock down threes consistently. He's 2 of 2 from 3. You're able to get contributions from Lonzo, even though the scoring wasn't there. Able to set up his teammates, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, a steal, a block, just finding different ways to affect the game. And that's what they did. And then that third quarter for Chicago ran it up. So they had a little bit of a cushion to withstand that last Toronto Raptors surge.
Yeah, everybody in Chicago had at least 2 field goals made, and everybody except for Patrick Williams had a 3, and everybody except for Buzelis had a free throw made. So it's like they're spreading it around. They got a lot going. And I thought Lonzo had a really crucial couple of possessions right after Chicago. It's a 1-point game. It's 112 to 111. Lonzo gets 2 free throws, hits both of them. Then 2 plays later, Lonzo gets a 3 to go up 119, 113. And then it was kind of done by then. Vooch gets another shot there. For Lonzo, though, it's just nice to see him play every once in a while when you check in on Bulls games. Is Lonzo the most feel-good player in the NBA right now?
Absolutely. He hasn't played in like 2 years. He went and got a whole new knee, a whole new person's knee put in his body to try to hoop. And he is out here hooping. I don't know anybody who can cheer against that.
Hey, you haven't wanted to hoop. You haven't really wanted to hoop unless you put somebody else's knee in your knee.
A whole new knee.
There you go. Listen to Locked On Bulls and Locked On Raptors for more on those games coming up.
Count it up.
Count it up, where we count out the most interesting, fun things in the NBA, including, do you believe in curses? Talk about that and more.
Some of these teams starting to.
Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Nights brought to you by Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't have to get a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. With Robinhood Gold, it allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for product-specific disclosures. Visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Also brought to you by Rocket Money. I've been using Rocket Money for years. It's really helped me to budget. I just love the different tools that it has to put everything in categories to see where I'm spending. And then it really helps you to check how many subscriptions you have, because there's everything, right? To try and watch an NBA game now, you have to have like 6 already. So to keep track of them, I realized I was paying for Paramount Plus. I was like, oh, I've never used that. Why am I paying for Paramount Plus? Rocket Money can cancel it for you. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, spending habits, even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved users a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Massive. Members save up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So check out Rocket Money. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon.
Big chicken, baby. Zion Williamson and porn star.
Take that for that.
Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up.
Oh, count up the injuries between the between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Charlotte Hornets. It's counted up. We're counting the most interesting fun things in the NBA. 3 more games left tonight. Sixers get a win, 121-108 against the Charlotte Hornets. Embiid is out. Jared McCain is out. Caleb Martin is out. You had Trey Mann was out. Grant Williams is obviously out for the Hornets. Then Brandon Miller limped off the court with 8:20 left in the fourth quarter. For the Hornets, let's start here.
Count it up.
Do you believe in curses? Because this is Mark Williams, just his 5th game back. This is the first game, at least by my count, with LaMelo, Brandon Miller, and Mark Williams. It's supposed to be like their big 3 young core. Do you believe in curses?
I do. But I don't know if this is the team that has it. Like, I think it's one of those teams that we did not see tonight in New Orleans. Like, if any team feels cursed, it is that team. But to your point about the Hornets,
they're okay with curses down there in New Orleans. They'll reverse it and go.
You know what I mean? But for the Hornets, like, it's tough because you haven't seen these guys all hoop together. The broadcast was even including Bridges into like their 4-4, saying they hadn't played together since November 26th of 2023. And then you lose Miller in the fourth quarter with an ankle injury. Like, just unfortunate.
It's tough. We just haven't seen this Hornets team. They're 7-19 now, and it's really tough for them. On Philly's side, Philly gets a win. They're 5-2 in their last 7 after a 3-14 start. They're only a game and a half out of the play-in now. They're 5 games back from 6th, which, I mean, there's a ton of time left. My question is there hope? What are you preaching if you are Nick Nurse? What are you preaching to your team? Like, all right, I know Embiid is out. I know Jared McCain is now out. I know that, what are you preaching to your team?
You're preaching, we're in the Eastern Conference, y'all. It does not matter. We have a chance. There is a chance. There's a lot of basketball ahead of us right now. We're in a situation where, look, even though we've been this bad, we are a game out the play-in. Like, we are right in this. We just got to get healthy, stay focused.
Good win for the Sixers. Let's hear from Locked On Sixers host Kayla Santiago.
Philadelphia 76ers finally win a basketball game. It felt like this was not going to happen again with the bad news of Jared McCain and Joel Embiid coming out. They defeat the Charlotte Hornets 121-108. And let's just have a round of applause for Paul George, because finally, he had a standout game with the Philadelphia 76ers. It was huge. 33 points. He then also made it into the top 10 of all-time threes, a history in the making tonight for Paul George. Tyrese Maxey on the flip side had 40 points. Those two combining for 73. This is exactly what you need without Joel Embiid in the lineup. More of Paul George. I need to see this from him in a big game that the 76ers really needed to just have some confidence, have some momentum with all the things happening right now in terms of the injury bug hitting Jared McCain and Joel Embiid. So the Philadelphia 76ers are able to defeat the Charlotte Hornets 121-108. LaMelo Ball, it don't matter. PG and Tyrese Maxey finally stepped up to the plate together.
Good stuff there, Locked On Sixers. Keith Pompey and Kayla, great dynamic duo over there on Locked On Sixers. Go check out that show for more stuff on the Sixers, the Cavs, and the Brooklyn Nets. Oh, this game started with the very first play of the game. Ben Simmons gets a steal and a dunk right off of that. And that's maybe the best thing and the only good thing that happened to the Brooklyn Nets the whole rest of this game. They lose 101-130. Let's hear from Danny Cunningham on the winning side of this, the Cavs side, and what they did to get this win.
The Cleveland Cavaliers continued their best start in franchise history on Monday night with a 130-101 win over the Brooklyn Nets. Cavs are now an NBA best 23-4 on the season. Karis LeVert was great early on. He had 19 points in the first half, made 6 threes before halftime. Evan Mobley finished with a team-high 21 points as 7 guys on the Cavs finished in double figures in scoring. And the story of the night for me is the defense for the Cavs, because Cleveland in the month of November, pretty bad defensively. They were 20th in the NBA in defensive rating. Well, since that calendar has flipped to December, they're 4th in the NBA in defensive rating of 105.5. They went from playing bad defense to championship level defense. Once again, that's what this Cavs roster should be about. And that's what this Cavs roster has been about this month. This was a really impressive performance from wire to wire on both ends of the floor, scoring 130, holding an opponent to 101. That's a great victory. I don't care who the opponent is, even if it's a Brooklyn Nets team that isn't very good. But the Cavs, again, 23-4. They've got 3 days off before the Milwaukee Bucks come to town for an NBA Central Division rivalry matchup. I'll talk to you after.
feel like you were squaring up at the end. At the end of that.
Right, I'm about to get ready for it. You know,
gotta love a guy complaining about a 23-4 team, complaining about their defense not being good enough.
Gotta keep them accountable. You know, if you want that championship, you better be accountable all the way through.
That's right. So the Cavs get the win. I don't know if I'd call it a good win for the Cavs, but it's definitely a big win. Speaking of big win, the last game of the night, the Clippers finish 144-107 against the Utah Jazz, and James Harden outscored the Jazz 24-20 in the first quarter. It's the second most points in a single quarter this season. Second to
who was that? Luka?
Giannis with 20. He had 25. Giannis had 25 in the quarter. Come on, they locked down Bucks.
I thought you were throwing up for yourself.
I threw it up. 25. He's the only one with 25. A bunch of other guys have 24. My question is, when Kawhi comes back, this Clippers team is what?
A dream? Is he? When is he coming back? What are we talking about here, Nick? I'm not believing nothing about Kawhi coming back until I see it. I love Josh Lloyd locked on fantasy. Anytime there's like a Ty Lue Kawhi update, he quote tweets the report that Ty Lue said that Kawhi was gonna be ready for training camp this year. Like every single time. And you're like, you just can't believe anything that comes out of that team's mouth. On the Jazz side of this, they lose. They're down by 40 points in the fourth quarter at one point in this game. My question is, our boss is David Locke. He's the radio voice of the Utah Jazz. Mm-hmm. He's got to travel with this team and fly around and go to all these games. Should the Jazz just let David Locke stay at home and call games from home just to spare him from having to follow and watch this team every day? No, they need to keep bringing him out and keep paying for him to travel around, because at least let him see the country while he has to watch this team be this bad.
This is not his first year. He's seen the country. He's got a family. Like they're 5-20 now. He used to cover Western Conference champ finals, and now it's tough one for our guy David Locke.
Hey, he can go back to all of his favorite spots in the various cities that he's familiar with. You know what I mean? Like, I can't wait to go back to New Orleans to give me some more redfish. So, it's all there. There you go.
Always some good stuff. So go check out Locked On Bucks. Go check out Locked On Clippers with Darian Vaziri. Great stuff over there as always. And thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Game Night. We've always got you covered every game, every night here. Subscribe wherever you're listening. And then go check out Locked On NBA midday with Matt, Hayes, and Doug. Great stuff.